Alrighty, Doc here from North America. Didn't look at the time. Let's get the Swiss up there. And there it is, right. Where is it? It is right. It's around here somewhere. There it is. There's the Swiss. As you can see, the product, what is it doing today? It's kind of like quiet. You can see it's trying to bounce up. I think we closed in a buy. Let's see what on the fact check spreadsheet there. Swissy is line 21. And no, it closed in a daily sell yesterday. Okay, so it's, you know, these markets are very tight. There doesn't seem to be, sometimes we always have the magical word conviction. We don't see the conviction. And in other words, I don't see commitment by traders. It's the end of the year. We got it's the 10th today now, going into 40 some odd days before the books close out. I'm sure most of the funds are trying to hold on to every penny that they've made. Remember, they get paid 20% or 2% management fee and 20% or 30% or 10% of the profits. So they are probably hungry to not lose any of that. So that's going on there. Let's get the other up and running. There we are. And so that is where we stand. Now let's get J4X is up. Let's get the Dukascopy chat line going. Let's see how that looks. And we had numbers out today. The inflation again. I don't see the stock indices jumping up or down too aggressively from any of it. So we'll go up and check the economic calendar and see what that number looked like. Let's see, let's open that up, and there we go. We got the currencies opened up there. Let's click away. Click-diddy-doo-dah.
Every Moscot frame is meticulously designed by Zach.
Commercials playing. There we are. There we go. And I see Douglas this morning. Hey, Douglas, how you doing? Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's get rid of some of the errors. And let's get Mr. and Mrs. Swiss up there at the same time. There we are, right there. Swissaroo. It'll spin in a second or two. What else can we say about any of that action? Like I said, we have the end of the year going on, and morning to you too, Douglas. And so that's that is important, you know. And now last year, we really didn't see any calamity. A lot of times at the end of the year, we see odd calamities occur, like where you know, like the Exchequer borrows like $34 billion to flatten out their books from the Federal Reserve. You know, things like that. We've seen the ECB do the same thing. You know, they borrow X amount of billions, and you wonder. I say this every year. You wonder who's in charge there at these different central banks that don't calculate. You know, they're out there plowing in like 60 billion a month. 60 billion a month the ECB does, like the way the Fed does the 120 billion a month. And you would think that they would, if they, you know, say, okay, let's do 61 and a half, so we don't have to borrow from the Federal Reserve. You know, you just wonder, you know, why can't they put all these numbers together? It's not like they're doing anything particular. Douglas says, about that nomination to the Fed, yeah, I know, I've been talking about it for a while. I thought Blinder was going to slide in finally, but I guess Blinder's just too old. You know, I guess he doesn't want to do that, from Princeton. He's like literally the big bull at Princeton. You know, he's kind of grazes there, and all the others kind of have to stand away. And you know, it's his economic department. It's been that way for 4 decades. And he was vice chair of the Federal Reserve at one point under Greenspan. I think it was Bill Clinton named him, but he was never made chairman. And so maybe he's at a point now where he just doesn't want to get involved. We're seeing a little dichotomy breakaway from the Bill Clinton era, where these some of these economic people in the Clinton era don't get along at all. Like Summers, who was head of Harvard, you know, doesn't get along at all with the modern Democrats. They're fighting with them all the time in the press. which is really odd, you know, because that's not normal for them, you know. Hi, good morning, Middle Age. Let's see what Middle Age says. That was a bullish grain report yesterday. Yeah, it popped everything. My bean meal calls popped, corn call doing well too. Yeah. And did you take some profits out of that? Or are you still riding it? This morning they looked a little weaker, you know. Let me open up one of those. Let's get that up on the screen too. We were looking at there's the Swiss. You can see the Swiss is moving back up again. After 5 days in a bind going nowhere. See the Swiss there doing nothing. Now today they're trying to pop it again. It's trapped in the middle of that range that we've been watching now for like almost a year and a half. So that's really wild. Yeah, let's take a look at the grains there this morning. I was having a good conversation with Robin this morning about that. We kind of think that there's so many producers trapped. You know, they've sold their crops a long time ago. Watched some commodities lift. We had farmers that were doing oats and sorghum and so forth, and they were trying to convince us, you know, when oats got up close to $4 that it would never get over $4, you know, things like that. They were just totally convinced of it, and they stopped taking the service even. They didn't want to fight with us about it. Now oats have gotten as high as $8. We told them it was going higher. Our math was screaming it wants to go higher. We don't, you know, we're kind of like a neutral in the sense that we don't take a side. We just follow the math. And you know, and one of those things was that you know, we saw these things like, you know, wheat was 6 and change, and it has run to 8, and you know, we were saying, well, this is going higher. It just keeps on, you know, it stays in weeklies and stays in dailies. It's going higher. I don't know how high it's going to go, but one thing's for sure: you can't just go sell your crop, you know, just flat out, because you know you're going to miss a lot of opportunity. And you know, I'm a big fan of using binaries and options and so forth to hedge crops. You can build all kinds of wonderful little structures that do the same thing as selling the futures contract, and you have the opportunity to gain in value. So in other words, if you're doing this down in the $6 area or $5 area, and the product goes to $8, chances are you still pick up 2 more cents, which is a lot on 5,000 bushels. You know, you're talking about, or $2. I'm sorry, pick up two more dollars on 5,000 bushels. You know, that's a lot. That's a major lot. And when you're farming 3, 5, 6,000 acres, that's a lot. You know, and so that's a new machine for free. You know, buying a new John Deere for free out of that. And so they've sold their crops. Now there's let's find what Middle Age was talking about. Here's the corn. Now yesterday they popped. Let's widen this out. As you can see, that news popped the corn, and today it's a little bit firmer. They backed it off to the middle of the range. It's still flirting. Can't get into the daily buy, and you can see we've been in the daily sell out of this whole thing, and now it's, you know, it's still fighting not to get into the daily buy, but we've been in the weekly buy, so you can't be short it, and you can't be long. I mean, you know, I mean, one thing is for sure. Is on a short-term basis, you don't want to be long because it's going down. Now, if you're a producer, that's a whole different game. If you're a speculator, you know, you don't want to be long calls with it going like that. Now, Middle Age jumped in there before the news because I guess we're in a weekly buy, thinking, all right, let's take a shot at it. And when you're buying binaries or calls, you have a very low risk factor. Now, here's wheat. Wheat, on the other hand, went into the daily buy off of that news. Has gone higher today and is backing off a little bit, but it's also in a buy for a while there now, 7 weeks or 8 weeks or something like that. And whereas soybeans, who also popped from that action right there, you know, we've been in a weekly sell in soybeans since like the 13 area. So you can see, let's move that over like that. Let's see, widen that out like that. So you can see there, we've been in, you know, up in here, we went into the weekly sell in the 13s, and you can see it's been on that downwardly slope. And so when, like, you know, corn, matter of fact, I think I have a chart we put up. Let's see, where's that at? Where did I park that chart? Let me do it this way, minimize that, and go in and go like this. This is a chart we posted yesterday. Oh, you're not even seeing them either. Yeah, so you can see here, beans were in a sell, and they've been in a sell. Wheat and corn, there's wheat, it went into a buy in here and has turned up. The same thing with corn. And so, meal, corn, yeah, see, middle East says, I sold 2 bean meal calls and 2 gold calls when we hit the 1834. Smart. Yeah, meal is looking interesting again. We've been watching that also. Let's see, where's that at? And let's show you that. Let's go there again. And let's put that chart back up again. So, there we are. And so there's the beans, yeah. And beans popped yesterday from it. But they're just kind of sitting there, and we're still in a daily sell, and we're in a weekly sell. And so that was something you knew you wanted to try selling again. When they're selling, they're reaching in and buying it without getting into a daily buy. And again, crops, they must have sold those crops. And you have to imagine, I have a stat, Robin sent it over to me. Let's see if I can put it up there. But what it shows is the inventory. Remember, these things are denominated in dollars. And so people are using these things as a surrogate to currency trading. You trade the commodities. In other words, let's say you're outside the United States, you want to get short the dollar, but the central bank is telling you that they're going to squeeze you if you get short the dollar because it'll make them look like a manipulator. I know it's weird stuff there now. Not a lot of free markets going on, and so they go and they buy the corn, which makes them short dollars now because they got to go in and buy dollars, but they don't buy dollars. Instead, they hedge their corn through a binary or an option, and they stay in the position, but they don't buy dollars to compensate for the whole thing. It makes them short it. That's that thing that's going on all the time there. So yeah, that's the. Oh, here's the meal. Let me just show you the meal. I know I was going for something. Here's the meal. There's deck meal. Now deck meal's been in a daily buy with this whole ride, and we went into the weekly buy here last week, which was very odd to begin with, because look at that. It went from 310 to 330 or 315. You can see in here we went into the daily buy, and it basically has jumped another 20 cents, and it took a while. Now it caught. Here's the winner chicken dinner here, right there. So our math is a very, very applicable tool, and that's why we do the J4X. Let's just show you the soybeans on J4X yesterday. I'm sure that was interesting. Where is it at? J4X. There's soybean complex. And so, and you see it's trying to turn just the way soybeans are. But in the case of the soybean meal, it's been a real battle. And it's had a hard time getting rolling along. And now we're starting to flirt with we're in the weekly buy now for a week after, I don't know how many weeks it was. What did we do? We went into a weekly sell back in August. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 10 right there. 11, 12, 13. Right there's 13. 14, 15, 16. We're in 16 weeks. We were 14 weeks in a sell. That's a lot. A quarter of the year we were in a sell, basically. And they rolled that puppy down from what, $4 or something like that. Was it August, right? So it fell down from the 1360s area all the way down to 360 area down to 310. It's a big drop. So that's why we pay attention to. We also provide information to farmers and producers, but more than that is that's why we pay attention to it. Is a lot of surrogates are created. Synthetic currency pairs are created by the commodities. Anything denominated in dollars can be used as a currency. They can hedge the underlying product itself, like crude oil, soybeans, coffee, whatever. You can hedge those things in a forward market or a binary or option market, and at the same time be liable, responsible for the currency translation, which makes you long or short dollars against your own home country currency. I know it sounds a little complicated, but it's not. That's it. That's where the whole story begins and ends. It's not. There's no other ramification of that story from there. So in other words, you don't even have to be a producer to put yourself into that position. So as we take a sip of tea there. All right, back to the currencies we go directly. Let's put up the euro on J4X. I think that thing's flirting with sell today. Something like that. And let's go find it over here. Right there, there you go. And you can see there, yeah, so it's right back into playing with a sell again after sliding into the buy yesterday. And I guess, the big warning sign, traders, and we know not to be long. Why, traders? We'll just re-emphasize that one more time here. Because it's in a weekly sell since up in here. It's been in a weekly sell and it just refuses to switch. And, you can see it here. Last week we got close and failed. And, this week we've tried and we haven't gotten there yet. It still won't go into that weekly buy. And this line here, when we scrunch this up, this is the bottom end of the range. And it does not seem to care. Look at it. It's just parked down on the bottom end of the range, just bouncing around on it. Bing, 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 bing. Just doing that. So, and then we throw the caveat, that little extra sweetener of conversation about it, and that is that it's coming into the end of the year. People need to close their financial books, and so you get pressure from that too. Sell. Now that reminds me of Marty from the American Stock Exchange. Good old Marty. When he would fall asleep on the train, he would say, so. All right. Let me think. Where else are we at this point in time? We'll figure the rest of this out. Let's see. Let's go over to the cable and see what the cable's up to. And there it is right there. Again, this is holding on by the hair of its chinny chin on a daily buy. You can see it right there. But the weekly went into the weekly sell last week here. So a lot of sideways, crazy end of the year pressure on a lot of these products. GBP dollar right there on the J4X. And as you can see right here, at the same time, let's move that down just a little bit like so. There we go. Yeah, there you go. So at the same time, you can see cable, and that's line 14? 13. 1 week in a sell, and 1 day in a buy, right there. Because there's the buy column. Buy, right there. Buy column. Right there, buy. So it's trapped in no direction, no clarity whatsoever. What else can we say about any of that? I don't see anything on here. There's our work too, and you can see it's battling, trying to playing with the weekly, and trying to break down, just the whole gig. And this will start to roll. Since this is starting to roll, this will start to roll in the next hour or two. We'll start to see on J4X it rolling over. All right. Let me think. What else? Any questions? Let me just double check. So. Marty used to like to stand in the options in the put pit. He always traded puts, and he was really big at selling them. Intraday trading them. He was a scalper. He was scalping puts. So, he was always like, so. Always wanted to be part of the trade. All right. Now, let's see, what do we got here? Let's go over to the Turkish lira and see what that's up to today. We'll first look at it through the dollar Turkish lira. Speaking of which, I see where Zimbabwe, the old Rhodesia, is talking about, oh, sure, we'll take a look at that. Is talking about, what are they talking about? They're talking about using Bitcoin or something like that as a currency. They got to do something. They have $1 billion bills there. $1 billion, not $1 million bills. $1 billion bills now. Things are, they've devalued their currency so bad. Now, here's on J4X on a daily right there, rolling down. Let's go find it over here on Chicago Quant. That is the Aud Jpy. I think that was one of those good trenders, wasn't it? Boy, we looked at these yesterday, some of these outliners, as you would call them, in pairs, you know, and they had some really good trends. Now, see that? All the lines disappear on me. I hate that. I forget to save it. So we've been in the daily sell since right there. I thought we put all those lines in yesterday. So there's the sell right there. You can see we've been in the weekly buy since here. And the first daily buy was right there. I wonder what dots were running. Let me just see what dots were running. Yeah, okay, that's cool. And let's put that up there. So it goes into the daily buy right there. Yeah, that's a nice little win. And then it goes into a sell here, but you don't take it because you're in the weekly buy. So let's put that in, like so. And then there's your daily buy again. And that one's the big winner chicken dinner. It's a big fat chicken dinner. Here it goes into the daily buy with that weekly buy here. And it goes from there all the way up to there. Right there. Still in the weekly buy. You see right there, running high and steady. And then it goes back into a daily buy again, right there. And it's a nice little chicken dinner then, right there. Then we go into the sell right here, and you keep a lot of those leftovers from those chicken dinners. And you're still in the buy. Now you can see it's challenging the time manifold right there today. And a little bouncy up right there, and you can see the same thing on J4X right there. You see, ooh, you see that right there trying to turn up. So, how's that, Douglas? Looking good? Feeling good, Billy Ray. Looking good, Lewis. Yes, indeed. Trading places. All right. From there, we will roam back over to Mr. and Mrs. Lira. Turkey lira. And you can see, oh, look at that. They're popping it harder. Been in the daily buy since here. Now they're breaking out of this range. Did they challenge that high yet? That high is 985. And today's high is 985. So they're playing with the highs. We're still in that weekly buy. It just refuses for 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 weeks now in a weekly buy. So that thing just keeps on marching along on the upside. Now let's tune in to the local trade, and that is the euro against the Turkish lira right there. And we'll throw it up on J4X. Right there. And that's been in the buy even longer. You know, I mean, the daily buy on the dollar is like from here, but it's been in the daily buy from here like 4 days earlier. Four days earlier it goes into a daily buy on the euro. And you know, you can see 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 weeks in a weekly buy. Also, they both joined the weekly trend together, but the daily has been so much more efficient on the euro against the dollar. The euro versus the Turkish lira versus, you know, when you look at the dollar Turkish lira. And again, I always say, you know, I say the same dumb thing, and that is location, location, location. Sell, sell, sell. Sell, sell, sell. Location, location, location. They must be doing a lot more trading. Just have to. So it has more value, less speculators. More actual, as they would say, where the rubber meets the road type of stuff. Real applicable, real applied. Alrighty. From there we drift over to the Canadian. See what the Canadian's up to. Boy, that sunspot yesterday got us. My son, who has a very interesting, sophisticated solar collector array, he buys this stuff really dirt cheap, like $50, and then he put in a very sophisticated backup. We put a what do you call it? Like we put batteries up in series, so it builds up an enormous charge. And then when the solar collectors are not powering up the batteries, which he lives off of the batteries, he, will his converter and storage system will draw it from the electric company itself. And so yesterday he says to me, I said to him, we lost the internet here all the way out to Chicago, and because we had that solar activity. We had that CME hit the earth yesterday morning. And, I was looking for it, watching for it, but I didn't think it was going to be as powerful. And he's always giving me grief. My son, this one son, he's always giving me grief. He tells me, you're wasting your time watching the sun, and, all that stuff. But in the end result is that we got knocked off our webinar after about 40 some odd minutes, because that CME finally hit Earth. And remember, it can blast from the sun, and it takes 8 minutes to get to Earth at the speed of light, okay? But it's traveling at a much lower velocity, the physical, not the photons, but the protons. The protons are moving at a very low rate, so it takes sometimes 3 days to get here. It's moving at a much slower rate. And so, I was watching for it to hit the Earth sometime yesterday morning here in the States, in the afternoon in Europe and so forth. But then the planet is turned, so by the time it hits the Earth here, it's hitting us and not Europe or Asia, because it's nighttime, so you're shielded. So it hit us, and we lost the webinar the last 12 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. And anyway, the issue of the story is his solar collectors. Now that he's got the system up, he said to me, "Yeah, you're right. My solar collector, my voltage spiked for a while during that." It's like, yeah, the sun hit us. I told you it's going to hit us. So he didn't. Usually he tells me I'm crazy, or he didn't say that at all. I just, I thought about that when he said it, and I didn't. And I'm not one of those that says, I'm not a big fan of "I told you so." I'm not like, that, like, "Oh, I told you, see, you should have listened to me." I don't do that. I show you my charts every day. We talk about the markets. My math is ahead of every other math on the planet, and I follow. I'm part of the electric universe. I'm part of a rebel group of scientists that are into the electric universe. We follow Dukascopy, we follow, Maxwell, Faraday, early Einstein, all the math that does electromagnetism and electricity. And in the later years, like 1928 and 29 and 30s, with quantum mechanics, where that's taken over, and where we divide. I move in the other direction. So our math here, what you're looking at is math that follows the electromagnetic fields. It follows, the actual movement of the universe itself, the way it functions correctly. You're looking at math. When you see this here, let's get rid of that. When you look at this and you see these lines and so forth, what it's measuring is objects. It's just like the original 1905 paper of Einstein. You're following objects on an electromagnetic field, okay, and that's what our math is representing. And so yesterday we got knocked off the webinar from a CME, which is the corona mass ejection. That's what CME stands for. So in other words, imagine the sun has a surface and an electromagnetic field, connects, positive and negative connect and make a little point explode off of it, and it goes flying towards whatever direction it's in. In this case, it was aimed at the Earth. So, now, the sun is rotating. It takes 28 days for the sun to move one day, I guess you could say. And, whereas the Earth moves every 24,000 hours, we go around, and that's one day for us. It takes 28 days for the sun to rotate back to one spot. So, when it fires out one of these CMEs, or the corona mass ejection, that's what CME stands for. It fires it. If it's aimed at the Earth or partly at the Earth, we feel it. And so we felt it. And then yesterday, my son's solar array that he built himself. So in other words, it cost him just you see these things where it costs you $30,000 or $40,000 to electrify your home or your business or whatever it is, with solar collectors and converters. My son, instead, we built it ourselves. And so, he goes and buys them off Facebook or stuff like that. He's buying $50 collectors and things like that. Stockpiles them all together, and then we wire it together, and then we put it up there, and so it only costs a couple grand, a couple $1,000s to build something that people are going to pay for 30 years. They're paying for. And instead, he has it, and instead of selling it back to the electric company, what he does is he stores it with a lot of batteries in series, and then what happens is that he goes right to the batteries, and the house doesn't draw from the electric company instead of selling it. So he's even more independent. Anyway, end result is yesterday we got an official confirm from a denier. One of my sons is a denier about the whole electric universe. And he goes, yeah, my voltage jumped yesterday. I said, yeah, well, I told you the CME was going to hit us. So he didn't say a word. He just kind of, instead of, he usually says I'm crazy, or he calls me something from the 16th century. I'm in the dark ages of mysticism or something like that. He was always saying that. But anyway, what you as viewers of our math and our conversation all the time in the currencies or the soybeans or the the gold or the silver, what you're doing is you're looking at the characteristics of the same mathematics that I use following the rest of the universe. And so, we're looking at these lines here, and you're viewing it, as far as you're concerned, as long as it's above the zero line and it's got green dots, you want to be long, especially at a weekly buy. And obviously, if it's doing the opposite, you want to be short. And all we're doing is measuring the same type of concept. So yesterday, Doc got a confirm from a denier, my son, one of my sons. The other one believes in it with me, but the other one does not. And yesterday he goes, yeah, my voltage meter jumped a lot. I said, yeah, told you. Anyway, that's it. That's Doc being crazy for the day. All right, so we're all watching the universe. This is like the 1905 paper of Al Einstein. He wrote a paper. It was called "Objects on a Magnetic Objects Moving on an Electromagnetic Field." Okay, and then as the years went on, they got rid of the name and they changed the name to. Can anybody raise their hand and say what it was called? Relativity. That's right. And we've all. Doc has done his crazy already and explained to you why they changed the name to relative. Because he was dating his cousins. They made a joke out of it. Instead, it became manifestation like Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger didn't create the cat concept against quantum mechanics as a confirmation of quantum mechanics. He did it because he was making a joke about quantum mechanics. And now, what's everybody talk about? The cat. Cat's alive and dead. Schrodinger must be rolling in his grave. Anyway, that's it. Okay, let's jump over to... Where do we go from here? There's the Turkish lira. We're done. Let's go to the Canadian. See what's up with the Canadian today. We drifted off there into Doc Space World. Doc being... and so, when you watch Doc webinars, you're watching an object moving on an electromagnetic field. That's what you're looking at. This is Al Einstein type of stuff, you know. He was trying to understand. He was a big fan of Maxwell and Faraday and Volt and Ohm. These are all scientists that have had electrical things named after them. So, Tesla, Nikola Tesla, you know, most people do nowadays know of Nikola Tesla. Big electrical man again. And so you can see here, Canadian fell into the cell there yesterday. Oop. Pressure is on it there. Let's put it up on J4X too at the same time. Right there. And you can see the weekly's trying to climb. Right there you see our weekly. As you see here, you know, same thing. It's falling through just like we're in the second day of the sell now. Same thing here on J4X. You see it's breaking through and going into it. Sometimes, you know, this is a really great tool we've developed for J4X. At the same time, scaling is not the best. We have to always adjust it to try to match it up to our work to get it set right. The Hinky Ashies try to emulate our red dots. You can see we were 3 days here. It's finally kicked in there. But if you don't have Doc's work and you're not watching our webinar, at least you can tune into this and make this like a 30-minute thing, you know. Or, you know, in this case here, we go to the weekly and see how well it matches up, see if it's aiming, trying to break up onto the upside. Right here, just the way it is on the Chicago quant charts, my math there. And you can see it doing it there. Yeah, see it. It's doing the same thing. It's trying to break up into it now. And we have two weeks of green. And we're battling. We're trying. Our work hasn't turned yet. This is trying to turn. It's telling you that there's some type of buying coming in. You can see here, when you look at this, you know that there's strength coming in. In this case here, looking at it through this magical little tool we developed for J4X, you know, you can see it's doing the same thing. It's showing that strength. So, it's just a good tool to have if you're looking at the markets through J4X or your own platform. Try to emulate this tool right there. We've done many a webinar explaining what it is. Anybody that wants to know, just give us a shout. We will explain it again. All right, that's the Canadian. So what we normally do from Canadians, we take a quick look at like the metals and the energies, because Canada is that's what kind of creates that loony pairs trade. Is that the you know, the New Zealand against the Canadian? It's watching two Commonwealth countries, one abundant in metals and oils, you know, natural energy, like Canada, minus, you know, they're like trading, you know, sheep and, you know, pork chops and so forth, and kiwis, you know, so it's a good way of measuring the difference. When you see the two of them, that's usually, we used to follow that a lot. We do follow the NASCAD. That's a real popular energy metals pairs trade to watch. All right, let's jump over to the metals complex now. Let's see what's going on there. We'll put it up on J4X. See, that's meal. So we can close that for the moment. And then there is that's the Russell 2000. You see, it's been kind of pressured. Let's take a look at gold there. There's gold. Doing a little selling here today, but we're in that daily buy and that weekly buy, so we're not taking that too serious. We're thinking it's just, you know, just profit taking. And then let's take a look at it over on J4X right there. Same situation, I'm sure. Maybe lagged a little bit, that's about it. This is the weekly. You see how it's turned up also for weeks now. This thing has been moving up. And you can see it on the daily right there. Probably the same way again. Moving up over the days just like ours was doing it here. So this is a good tool here, traders. And then at the same time, we go and check out the energy sector of it. And there is the Texas Crude. Put it on there. Same situation. It's in a daily buy for 2 days now. You can see the weekly is trying to get its. It tried to go into the sell. That's what it was. It tried to go into the sells, and it's just hanging along the zero line. Just hanging there. We've been in that weekly buy since the 60s, like low 70s, high 60s, and it's trying to get into that sell. They tried to smack the doodle it there, didn't do too good a job. You can see it here on the daily, you know, climbing up, And let's take a look at it on a weekly basis, right there. I'll take a sip of tea as it fills in. There you go. You see that? Let's move this over. So it's been the same way. Been in a long buy. It tried to go into the sell, but notice the line did not break down, and it's popping back up, doing the same thing as it did there. So the overall the strength is still in the metals complex and the energy complex. There is serious constant talk about $100 oil here in the States. And what else we got going on about that? And I'm impressed that we're seeing the metals complex show as much strength as it has. Maybe, I mean, we talked about this yesterday. We talk about it a lot. We got that inflation. Pretty much everybody is convinced that we do have inflation now. I mean, the Federal Reserve tried to pretend by calling it transitory. But obviously, since June, it's more than just transitory now. It didn't go away after just 1 or 2 months. It is now, what's that, June, July, and August. That's 3 months. September and October, that's another 2 months. So we're 5 months now into this inflation factor. And we're going into November now. And so, we're heading into a 6th month of it. So half a year. So it's falling out of the concept that it's transitory. Isn't that neat how they come up with some of these ways politically to describe something about economics? Instead of saying, yes, we have inflation 6 months ago when everybody knew we did, instead they refer to it as transitory. They wouldn't even use the word inflation. They used to say, well, things are just transitory about the increase in prices. They wouldn't use the magical word inflation. They had to come up with new words. It goes up there with the Joe Stalin philosophy. It doesn't matter who votes, counts on who counts the votes, that type of thing. In other words, they will change the rules of the game to fit their success. When a political side of the movement wants to, it was Lady Thatcher used to say, one day socialists run out of other people's money to spend. Let me say that one more time slowly. Lady Thatcher would say, at one point, labor and socialists will run out of other people's money to spend. In other words, they can only tax you so long and get X amount of money out of you. After a while, they knock you out of business, or there's no more money to tax you on. It's wiped out. So that is their nature. That's who they are. They like to spend other people's money, and they like to tell other people how to live their lives. And there's a lot of people out there that want that too. There's a good third of the world that wants to be told what to do and when to do it. They don't want to think. And that's all right. That's who they are. But we don't want them to tell us. There's a third of us that doesn't believe in that at all. And then there's another third who could care less. They don't care about anything but themselves, and they don't pay attention. And that's why you see here in the States, we only get 60-some-odd% of the population voting all the time. You rarely see past 67%. And that's what's freaking everything out now. They call that the silent majority that doesn't get involved. They're getting involved now because the socialists have gotten too much power, and they're starting to get involved. Not a lot, just enough to influence it. We've been seeing for, since Obama 2010, we've been seeing massive voting for Republicans. They've been winning everywhere around the nation. If it wasn't for the crazy election of 2020, losing those couple senators and the presidency, we picked up 28 seats in the House. Mr. Trump won more votes than any sitting president in history. So, there was a lot of shenanigans going on there. And that'll get cleaned up too. Anyway, that is the energy sector. So now what we do is we jump over to the South African Rand and see what that's up to. The Rand. Where are you, South African Rand? Right there. We saw it moving down for the last couple days, but now that little bounce, that little profit taking in the metals seems to have turned it again. we're a little confused why this thing is sitting in a weekly buy. We wonder, is it Zuma? Is it the end of the year? What is it that they can't get the, we've seen silver and gold rally. Why can't they get the currency to break down, and start to gain in value again against the dollar? We're a little surprised about that. And then let's take a look at it over on J4X. We're probably seeing the same exact action, especially on a weekly basis. Right there. Which kind of, to me, is disappointing. Because, there's so many traders. I was saying to Robin, from our Chicago quant office, I was saying, a lot of our subscribers, it doesn't matter what their area of life, career is, farming or investing or whatever. We notice one thing for sure, and that is that all of them seem to want to pay attention to silver, not gold as much, but silver. But we do have a couple clients that just follow gold. That's it. But we're really, to me, it's really funny to see somebody that's, watching red wheat in Minneapolis, and following, soybean oil out of Chicago, and 2 or 3 other grains, and then all of a sudden their last choice is they want silver. There's a lot of people that are following silver, and it really surprises us that we don't see the action in it. Middle Age says the daily chart pattern in platinum has my attention, Doc. What's the daily quant look like in that? Let's check it out. Yeah, I think it held up. It's been in a weekly buy for a long while, too. I think it has. What do we have it on the fact check? This is just right there. That's line 7. Okay, yeah, so it's 5 weeks in a buy to start off with. Let's see, right there. There is January platinum. It's not really going anywhere. You see that upwardly slope. We've seen those lines we've talked about before. It's been in the buy since here in the 1,000. I guess it was 950 area. It went into the daily buy. What was it? One of those daily buys. It was the real explosive one, where it went from 950 to 1,050. I guess it was this one, and then we went into the weekly buy at the same time. Where's that line at? Right there. So it goes into the buy right there, and it makes that nice run up $100 in a couple days, and then you can see it does their little corrections. And, it's still staying in that weekly buy. It's above the time manifold, so it's really holding on pretty firm. You see that nice big dip down here. I guess if we can get into a daily buy, maybe we get another 100 points out of it. And maybe it'll do another leap like it did here. That's the thing that try to understand the metals complex. It seemed to lead the move in silver. Let's just take a look at silver real quick. There's silver. We're playing with a daily sell at the moment. We've been in a buy for 3 full weeks. This is the 4th week now we're in a buy. You see that is also above the time manifold. So I'm not too impressed with the weakness each time. It seems like it finds a way to climb. There may be end of the year pressures that we're really seeing out of it all. That could be the best way to describe it in the metals complex. And again, that conversation we're having about the inflation, transitory, I think I said this yesterday, I think they've got to let it climb a little bit. In other words, the Federal Reserve has to just step back a little bit and not, pound on the metals as they do. Everybody knows now there is, there's issues. There's inflation, and as much as they try to invent a new word for it, transitory. Oh my God, it's like Albert Einstein's. Maybe they learned it from that. Maybe some of them really know. The title to Albert Einstein's famous paper is "Objects Moving on a Electromagnetic Field." That is his famous paper. Okay. Now, changed the name of it over time to relative or relativity. Now, that's the personal joke that they did in 1915. Now, the thing was written in 1905 and published in 1905 and made him world famous in 1905. So, you know, it's the Federal Reserve takes the same spin. Instead of calling it inflation, they refer to it as transitory. It's like, whoa, wait a minute here. How does the word transit, movement, equate to inflation? Well, I guess you could say they both are an adjective that talks about movement. You know, and inflation is movement. You know, it's expanding, or it can be retracting, or you know, becoming smaller, but it's still a movement. And transitory means it's something that's not stationary; it's moving also. So, you know, you get these word games to hide physical reality, and so you have to wonder. You know, the Federal Reserve and the central banks, do they need to play this game that much that they are going to push the metals complex down? I don't think so. End of the year, inflation is in our face. So what could they do? They could step back and not beat up on the metals complex, and that's what you're seeing in the platinum. Notice how platinum is just, let's go back to platinum. And you can see there, the platinum is really just going nowhere. I mean, it's on an upwardly slope, of course. But I mean, it keeps on finding a way back to the $1,000 area. It keeps on finding a way to climb up into the 1,050s area and then stall. You know, and you can see here now on a daily we've bottomed out. You can see the weekly is trying to curve down. I don't know how well it'll do. I would think it would bounce off the time manifold and, you know, climb back up again. So it's just, you know, these word games. You know, they try to hide physical reality, and you know, our math does its best to show physical reality. I guess that's the best way. So that is what it is, you know. And so I hope that helped you out there, middle age. I myself, you know, just the way watching silver and gold and the politics, I'd have to believe that the metals would have more room on the upside. Not a lot, but it has to have some. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Don't you agree? I think that's the only way I can relate to it. All right, where were we at? Oh, we'll go take a look at the Russian ruble. Go from there. But if you want to look at anything else, just yell it out. We'll jump right back to it. We're heading to the ruble now. You can see the ruble's not moving like the South African rand. It is fighting to still slide. And we're in that sell from here. That's moving down, and we've been in that weekly sell for a while. Where's it out on the fact check spreadsheet? Right there. Ruble's 13 weeks in a sell and 4 days in a sell. There, you can see that. Not really going in. Yeah, it's a toughie. It's a real toughie, you know. And I could see, you know, one more nice pop on the upside. Then you go into the Lunar New Year, and there's a lot of silver being bought, a lot of gold being bought. Maybe they let it ride all the way up into February. You know, I'm just guessing. You know, just natural instincts. And then what happens is that, you know, like we didn't even look at see what the inflation numbers look like today. They came out about an hour ago. So, you know, it's definitely you know, something that has to be left in the back of our minds, that, you know, these products have to lift a little bit more just because of the pressure on them. 27, I'd love to see that. Yeah, I mean, I think that we could see 19 gold. You know, I think we could see 19 and a quarter, something like that. I could see us doing 26s in the silver. You know, I really do. I think we got a shot at both of those. So I agree with your idea of, you know, the rising price. And then, you know, when it comes to the currencies seem to just, they're just chopping sideways. And that seems to be the whole, I guess you could say, you know, the whole action of it all in the end. All right, South African Rand's done. Let's take a quick look at, not South African Rand, I'm sorry, the Ruble is done. Let's go take a look at the yen. There's the yen. You can see it the daily sell there, a little volatility signal kicking in. Let's see what it looks like over on J4X. Right, dollar yen right there. And you can see the weekly here on the Chicago Quant doing its thing. And there it is on J4X. Let's see what it's. This is the weekly. See if it's, you know, looking the same way. I'm sure it is at this point. Yep, they're just trying to generate a little red here, and they are breaking down a little bit. We've gone through the time manifold, but we're not through the zero line yet, so I'm not really that concerned. You can see this is a super. So the 5, which is the blue dashed line, had broken down last week, and it's, you know, reflecting it here. You know, that pressure on it, but it's still really holding up pretty well. All right, what else do we got? I guess we got time to get out of here. Traders, that's it. So we get a title of this. We'll send that out to Dukascopy, the title. And we will catch you all tomorrow on Thursday. This is Happy the Hump Day, Wednesday. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you, to all our global Dukascopy friends and some quant friends out there. Ta-ta for now.